Emotions are incredible servants, but they make terrible masters. I'm your coach, Hannah Thuku Kolamainen, founder of Identity Acumen International, where I unleash your indomitable identity. Welcome back to our 10-session journey, The Anti-Fragile Advantage, using intelligent failure to turn your current struggles into strategic wins. Please pause and download today's session worksheet so you can track along as we learn. Please go to identityacumen.com and click on Anti-Fragile Advantage, where you can access past videos and all the downloads. Add it to your portfolio, which is growing, and I'm sure giving you an ample workout as you grow in anti-fragility. Your identity is shaped by the stories you live from. And I taught you the 7 steps of the acronym STORIES, STORIES. E in the acronym stands for emotional patterns. These emotional patterns don't exist in isolation. They sit inside a larger ecosystem of identity, behavior, and meaning. And when the emotional layer becomes distorted, everything downstream becomes fragile. The STORIES acronym intersects well with Jero Vega's awareness quadrant, which we're using to map our journey. It covers 4 dimensions of human awareness. Today, we're looking at the 3rd dimension, feelings. And we're going to look at what that looks like in an unhealthy state, whereby emotions are driving Dead-End Dani and keeping her fragile. Dani isn't fragile because she feels deeply. She's fragile because she's driven by what she feels. Her emotions lead, her identity follows, and that is a dangerous arrangement. Emotions are real and very important, but they are not reliable as the driver of your life. We all know that emotions can shift with the tone of voice, with a facial expression, with a delayed text, with a sleepless night. And where emotions lead, Dani follows, sometimes straight off a cliff. These emotional patterns didn't appear out of nowhere. They were once survival mechanisms, strategies that her younger self used to stay safe, to stay connected, or to stay in control. And they worked effectively then, within reason. They protected her. But now, they're keeping her fragile because she's still using outdated survival strategies. So, what are 4 emotional branches that keep Dead-End Dani fragile? I'm going to pick just 4. These are not random feelings. These are emotional bundles or patterns, emotional muscle memory, so to speak. They're formed by repetition, they're reinforced into her identity, and they're triggered by the slightest shift in her environment. And you'll notice that Dead-End Dani is probably a very sensitive person and quickly and easily picks that up. So, number 1, let's look at the anxiety branch. Anxiety. That says something bad is likely to happen, and it's my job to stop it. This branch grows from Dani's distorted sense of self. That's the first S in the STORIES acronym. She says to herself, I am responsible for preventing disaster. So she feels chronic anxiety, hypervigilance, anticipatory dread, the pressure to manage everyone's reactions. And these emotions don't just visit her, they drive her. They tell her what to do. They tell her who to be. And because emotions can shift instantly, she is easily triggered, easily overwhelmed, and easily thrown into panic, among others. The survival origin is that hypervigilance once kept her safe, but now it's keeping her small. In relationships and at work, this looks like being the reliable one, but never the promoted one. Ooh. It may look like carrying the weight, but not the authority. Ouch. It may look like feeling indispensable, but not feeling valued. Let's look at another one. Number 2, the shame branch. This one says, if I fail, I lose my worth. Beneath Dani's anxiety is paralyzing shame. Brene Brown calls it the shame spiral. Dani's internal script sounds like, it's not okay to make mistakes. If I fail, I'll lose my value. If I'm not perfect, I'm not safe. So failure doesn't feel like feedback for her. It feels like an indictment. It comes across as this biological shudder, an involuntary tightening of the body, a rush of heat, a sense of impending doom. She fears what Brene calls a rank and yank culture where her worth is measured on a bell curve of perfection. So she polishes, she performs, she maintains a glossy veneer of competence that is emotionally costly and unsustainable. This leads to burnout, to emotional exhaustion, to a very fragile sense of self. It leads to a belief that her emotions are facts, not signals. She absorbs the emotions of others. Remember, she's a thermometer, not a thermostat. So what's the survival origin of this shame? Shame avoidance once kept her compliant and safe. Now it keeps her either silent, or she could be very loud, or she could be sarcastic. But at the end of the day, it keeps her powerless. So, anxiety branch, shame branch. Number 3, let's look at an unworthy branch. This branch grows from the sensation that she is undeserving. So she plays emotionally small. She feels like she must earn her place. These emotions dictate her choices. They tell her to overwork, to overcompensate, to overextend in hopes of being enough. I call it enoughness deficit disorder. As a result of these, Dani can swing from being very hopeful in 1 minute to suddenly feeling very hurt. From being generous and just giving to being very resentful. From being engaged and in the game to being withdrawn. The survival origin of this branch is that performing for love once kept her connected. Now it keeps her depleted. In relationships and at work, this looks like hiding mistakes and probably not learning from them. It looks like over-preparing, avoiding opportunities that would expose skill gaps, perhaps even downplaying accomplishments. She may stay silent in a meeting even when she has an insight. She may apologize excessively when she hasn't done anything wrong. She may easily interpret neutral feedback as personal rejection. So, anxiety, shame, and enoughness deficit disorder. Number 4, the disappointment branch. This one says, if I don't please them, I'll lose them. This branch grows from the fear-based belief that disappointing others is dangerous. So what does Dani feel? She feels guilt at any given time. She fears conflict. She experiences emotional pressure to comply. She feels dread of letting people down, therefore is a people pleaser. These emotions override her boundaries and silence her true voice. In this state, Dani can swing from being very confident to being very apologetic, from being clear to feeling guilty, from being grounded to being scattered. The survival origin is that compliance once kept her attached. Now it keeps her misaligned with who she is and what she is called to. So these 4 emotional branches, anxiety, shame, unworthiness, and disappointment, are patterned emotional habits shaped by Dani's past and her current sense of self. They drive her decisions, they drive her reactions, they drive her relationships. But here's the truth. You cannot become anti-fragile by letting your emotions lead you. You become anti-fragile by letting your identity mature and then lead you. Your emotions will then follow. Identity drives behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Emotional maturity and regulation is a wonderful bridge and outflow of those two. So here are some calls to action today. First, did you score yourself on the identity patterns chart? If not, you can find it under session 5, right under the download on identityacumen.com under Anti-Fragile Advantage. It is currently temporarily deeply discounted. Please take it. People are saying they love it because it gives a non-shaming snapshot of their identity patterns. It also reveals the exact emotional and behavioral loops that you've been repeating. Secondly, please like and share this video. Thirdly, what is your dominant emotional branch based on what we've shared today? Anxiety, shame, unworthiness, disappointment. Which one stands out to you today? Drop a sentence in the comments about how that branch is showing up in your relationships or your work. Your reflection will help others recognize their own patterns. Lastly, please join us for session 7. Look at us just going through them, where we explore what anti-fragile Fran is feeling and how her emotional patterns create stability, clarity, and identity-anchored leadership. I'll see you there.